All right, so today we're going to take the trade signals, as I mentioned from yesterday's BloodHound workshop. Basically, it's 4 stacked EMAs, right? So yeah, as you can see, I don't have those EMAs on my chart. So, but that's because today we're going to focus on setting up BlackBird, obviously, and implementing, the entry orders and the exit orders, right? So we have listed here, the targets, and then we have listed here the stop loss to be used with a modification here. So we will add a trailing rule, to determine, which is closer, the 100 ticks or the 50 EMA. So actually, as a matter of fact, I should put this 50 EMA on the chart since BlackBird's using it. So that will help us make sure everything's set up correctly there. All right. So, and then also, lastly, a break-even rule here for the last order set. Right. So this has 3 order sets, right? So target 1 is the first order set, target 2, second order set, target 3, third. So let's get, as you can see, well, actually, let me get the EMA on the chart first. All right, there we go. Now let's get BlackBird open. All right, so first thing we're going to do is let's load up our BloodHound signals here. So it doesn't matter what order you do things. So we could have set up the order sets and everything first if we wanted to, but I'm kind of old school. I usually like to start from the top and work my way down, no matter what program it is. But I would say with BlackBird, probably, if you have signals, you want to start in the middle, then set up your entry and exit orders second, and then probably go into your order management settings here, and fine tune all that stuff last, right? So I think that's probably the more intuitive way that people tend to think of, their trading system. So, but whatever the case is, it doesn't matter what order you do things. So with the BloodHound trade signal menu set up here, then we need to load in the BloodHound file. So let's click the ellipses button there. And so there is yesterday's workshop file. So we'll double click on that, open it up. And next we'll select the logic template with our entry signals. So it's this one here, the 4 stacked EMAs with a 2-bar count. There we go. So we'll select that. And we're good to go. And yeah, so we'll leave, the show on chart and the show racing stripes, right? So this show on chart means, show BloodHound on the chart, right? So strategies can add an indicator to the chart if you want them to. And then also BloodHound, we can turn on or off the racing stripes if you want there. This system does not have an exit signal, right? So we'll just leave that alone. And there we have it. So I guess the reason why I like to set up the trade signals first is if I click OK, there we go. So BloodHound's going to tell us, hey, you need to reload the chart in order for BloodHound to load an indicator on the chart. All right, so we're going to reload F5 on the chart. And now, there we go. So now that allows BlackBird to add BloodHound, at least the BloodHound plots really is what you're adding. You're just adding the plots to the chart there. All right, so there you go. There's a bunch of signals. We can see those now. Also, you might need to make sure, so it depends on, on your BloodHound template there, but if you have multiple logic templates, so maybe you have, 2 different entry signals, and maybe you have an exit signal, so just make sure you've got the right logic template selected, for whatever signals you want to look at. So, all right. And okay, so now let's open BlackBird back up. There we go. So now we can begin setting up our entry and exit orders. So the entry is not mentioned here. So we'll just use a market entry. There we go. And so the first profit target is going to be 100 ticks. So I'm just going to use the 10 tick, from the quick list to get started. And then I can open this up and open up the initial placement here, right? So we can see that's where the 10 tick profit target is listed. And then I can go down here to the offset and change it to 100 ticks, like so. All right. Well, there we go. There's our first target there. It says on the NQ, of course, just side note, BlackBird's only going to trade on the instrument that you put it on. All right. So if you put BlackBird on the ES, it's going to be trading the ES. All right. It's not going to trade the NQ from the ES chart. So yeah, that's basically standard for strategies there. So you could build a custom strategy that's multi-time frame and multi-instrument capable. So, but that gets pretty hairy when you do that, especially when you're trying to debug it. So so BlackBird just trades or submits orders to whatever chart it's running on. So, all right, now let's set up the stop loss 100 ticks max. All right, or the EMA 50. All right. So when you're wanting to have your stop loss, go to one of two possible locations, you always need to set your stop loss to the furthest price, right, first. So the initial placement needs to be set to the furthest price, and then we can use a stop loss trailing roll to check to see, is the EMA 50, 50 ticks below the EMA 50, is that a little closer? And if it is, then the trailing roll will move it closer. All right. So BlackBird doesn't specifically have a decision tree, to say, okay, let's analyze both of these before we put the stop loss on, and then, make a decision as to where to put that stop loss. No, you have to make a decision first, pick something, and then with the trailing roll, you can see if the other location, the other option, if it's closer. And then, of course, BlackBird will pull that stop loss in, closer to the market. So there we go. So we'll set it up to 100 ticks. So again, I'll just use the 10 tick here from the quick list to get started, and open this up, and then again go into the initial placement. All right, so you can see there's there is no place to put in two different prices and pick between the two. So you just have to pick one to start off. So all right, and what am I doing here? There we go. We need to add another 0. There we go. So you'll notice stop losses are a negative number, at least for long trades. Stop losses are a negative number, right? Because you're subtracting, right? You're putting your stop loss below something, right? So you're subtracting to get your stop loss down there. And right, and if you look at the name, profit targets are a positive value because you put your profit targets above the market for a long trade, right? So things are labeled in terms of thinking in terms of a long trade. So all right, now let's go in and create that trailing roll. So on the trailing actions tab here, we're going to go to the mode, set it to custom. So now we can start creating, whatever kind of custom trailing rolls we need here. So let's add one here. And all right, there's also a comment here. Yeah, so there's a comment here that says so often it's trailing the EMA 50. So it doesn't say, you know, specifically here trail, but I'm going to take that to mean that, you know, it trailing the EMA 50 should have been included in here. So we'll add that as well. Well, actually what we'll do is making this decision of going to 50 ticks below the EMA 50 and trailing, you know, really that's one and the same as far as the trailing roll goes, right? So let's see here. We'll keep that name there. And actually let's adjust this name here. All right, so we'll call it, you know, trail the EMA 50 minus 50 ticks there, right? And so, you know, a trailing roll will kick in immediately. So as soon as this stop loss is placed at 100 ticks, you know, if that EMA 50 minus 50 ticks, if that's closer to the market, right, closer than 100 ticks is, then this trailing roll is just going to kick in immediately, instantly. Right? So, okay, so let's go to the action. So the action is where we set up the new price of where we want our stop loss to be moved to. All right, so we're gonna, so the action is we want to move that stop loss order to, right, and so here is where we, you know, define what that new price is going to be. So we're not using bar prices, so we're going to change the mode to an indicator because we're using the EMA. All right, so now let's go into the indicator menu. Let's scroll down to the EMA. There's our EMA, and we'll plug in the 50 period, call it good, and now we need to put a negative 50 ticks for an offset, right? So this adds or subtracts an offset to the base indicator, and that is it for the action. Right, so there you go. You can see we're taking the EMA 50 minus 50 ticks. Now we just need to set up the repeat. So since this is a, you know, your typical trailing rule here, then obviously we want to repeat this on every bar here. So we'll set it to repeat indefinitely. There you go. And the default says, you know, repeat every bar. Right, so since we are using an indicator, right, indicators only update, you know, once per bar, so there's no need to update it on a tick by tick basis, right? So, and that's it. Yeah, that'll do it. So, as soon as that EMA 50 minus 50 ticks, right, moves higher than the 100 tick, you know, distance, then that stop loss will start following that EMA 50 minus 50 ticks. So, okay, so we have our first order set defined, right? Entry order and the two exit orders. So now we just need to create the other two order sets there with the different profit targets. So let's just go to order sets here. We'll do copy from, so we'll copy A, and then we can go into the profit target, right? Go to the options tab and adjust this to 150. There we go. And if we look at the stop loss, since we copied order set A, right? Obviously, you know, the initial placement's the same, you know, but also the trailing roll is the same, right? So we copied that trailing roll there. So if you do have trailing rolls, you know, be in the habit of creating it first. You know, make sure that this order set A is complete as much as possible before you start copying. So that way you don't have to go back in and add the same trailing roll multiple times, you know, to the different order sets. So, all right, now we can create our last profit target here, 190 ticks. So let's copy B, there. So we'll create that third target there. And again, go to the Options tab and adjust this from 150 to 190. And there you go. We're almost done. One last thing, right? So if target 1 is hit, then move position 3. Really, it'd be, really, I think it more appropriately would be move stop loss 3 to break even there. All right, so let's add that break even trailing roll here. So go into our third order set here, or order set C. So let's open up the stop loss, go to the trailing actions tab, and let's expand that out a little bit. Let's add another trailing roll here. All right, so we're going to do a break even when profit target, and I'm going to call it A, right? Since BlackBird names them order set A, B, and C, I'm going to use the BlackBird convention there. All right, so when profit target A, right, is filled, then we're going to move to break even. So now we have a requirement here, or a prerequisite, which is we need profit target A to be filled first, right? So we're going to use the trigger now. So we're going to go into the triggers here, and we need to go to we can stay on the basics tab here, and we're looking for order status has changed, right? So we're looking for the status of profit target 1 to be hit or filled. So let's select the order that we want to monitor. So there we go. Profit target for A, right? 100 ticks. And now, the mode is, what are we looking for to be, what status are we looking for here? So not the placement. You could use all filled, but I usually go more conservative and go any filled right there, or of course you can check to see was that order canceled maybe. So, all right, so let's put it on any filled there. So obviously if you're only trading one contract, then all filled, any filled is the same, but if you're trading multiple contracts, you never know when you only might get a partial fill on your profit target there. So I usually go with any filled there. And there you go. So that is our, if target number 1 is hit or filled. So that's our condition. So let's see, where is it? There we go. There's our break even. So now the action is we want to move that stop loss to break even, right? And so what is break even technically? Break even would be the average entry price. So since we have 3 contracts, right, we could get a split fill there, right? So these could be, filled at, 1 tick apart from each other, right? So we'll just go with the average fill just for good measure. And if you want, just to really make sure, we do have some pretty large targets here, so you could even add a tick or two, above the break-even price there, just to make sure that you actually don't lose any money, right? Because you never know with stop orders, how much slippage you might get in these fast-moving markets these days. So anyway, so if you want to add, a tick or two, above the break-even, that's how you do that. So I'll just leave it at 0 for now. There. So, all right, and that's it. So a break-even, you can only move to break even once, right? So the repeat, there is no repeat necessary there, since break even is a one-time occurrence. So, and that does it. So I'm not gonna wait for any trade signals, but I do want to test out the stop loss there and make sure, right, that we implemented everything correctly. So let's click OK. And since we're in a downtrend here a little bit, let's just go short. So obviously our profit targets, those never go, or those are never set up incorrectly. The profit targets is so much easier, but the big thing to verify is the stop losses there. And my guess is that looks like a 50 tick offset. So it if you noticed, it did move down from its initial location. Let's see if I can grab a measuring stick here. Let's see, where's the ruler? There we go. All right, so I think it was about from there to there. Yeah, doing some math. Yep, 12.25 times 4 is 50 ticks. So there we have it. So it did move down to that 50 ticks off of the EMA. So there we have it. As mentioned at the beginning, this is very standard run-of-the-mill order sets here, for the typical trader there. A couple of different profit targets, and the stop loss that, usually one of these stop losses will have a break even, and typically there's usually some kind of trailing built in as well. So we have this side question here. So yeah, this has been asked. This is a fairly, I'd say, somewhat fairly common request or desire for someone's trading system to so once a trade is over, to wait X number of bars before executing the next signal. So that has not been implemented into BlackBird, yet. So, 2024 is supposed to be the year where the programmers focus on BlackBird. So with any luck, this might be one of those honey-do list items that gets worked on and added to BlackBird. So this year, but no promises, only crossing fingers. So yeah. So bottom line is this is not possible yet. The only thing close to this that is possible is if there is an exit signal from BloodHound. So if you have a BloodHound, I don't know why I'm highlighting that, but let's see, do we have BloodHound mentioned here? No, we don't. So if your BloodHound system has exit signals, then you could carry those exit signals out X number of bars, and as long as there's an exit signal, BlackBird will ignore entry signals, right? Because there's a conflict. So if there's ever a conflict, BlackBird's just not going to do anything, because it's not going to arbitrarily make a decision for you. So exit signals do prevent entry signals from being acted upon, right? So yeah, so that's really the only way, that you could delay the next trade is if you have exit signals built. And yeah, so yeah, another thing that was done a while back in the workshops is somebody took their entry signals, so they didn't have exit signals, but I guess they were probably trading a time-based chart, like a 1-minute chart, something like that. And so they knew that whenever they got an entry signal, they didn't want to take a trade for the next hour, right? So you could modify the entry signals, and so in the BloodHound system you could say, okay, I got an exit signal here, so now we're going to count 60 bars and block all entry signals for the next 60 bars. Right, so again, that's, you know, BloodHound managing how often the entry signals occur. But the other way, the most common way, is you need to have an exit signal, and then you could just extend that exit signal out a few extra bars, you know, which would, you know, put a pause before the next entry signal will be acted upon or acknowledged by BlackBird. All right, so there you go. That wraps it up there.